So one of the things that I think we should talk about in this how-to, Helen, is how to raise a Viking or how to be a Viking. How do we get to be a Viking? Are there any key pointers that we can lean into that make us more Viking-like?
I think if we're thinking about how to build a Viking from the ground up, what's really helped me is this idea that their family comes in different forms. So there are 37 different types of family unit in Denmark. And Sweden and Norway and Iceland have more births outside marriage than in it. And I think I grew up as a single, the only child of a single mum, and I was always made to feel that family formation was somehow less than. And you kind of internalize this, whereas here it's much more normal. It's kind of embraced. There's a lot of donor families, for example. The Prime Minister was a single mum when she came to power. So all of that kind of open-mindedness to what family means and what family is, I think is a really good start for that. I think my next one would be around playing. So simple and something we can all do, but just playing every day in every way. And studies show that if we let our children have a bit more of this risky play, it's not the ones who climb a tree and fall who have a fear of heights. It's the ones who never climb a tree. So they also let you play fight in the Nordics, which I find so interesting, something that's shut down in most places. Here they think it's perfectly normal. It helps you socialize. It helps you learn what is appropriate and what isn't, so that by the time you get to be a teenager, you're not a bit leery and fighting when it's not appropriate.
Yeah,
so I quite like that one as well. Yeah, it's really good. And I think I've also learnt to be a bit more patient in terms of pushing in terms of education. So Danes teach children how to think, not what to think. There isn't so much pressure on the academics. There's not homework till around the age of 11. They're not reading till they turn about 8. And studies show that this is a good thing, that they have less stress this way, they have less anxiety, and they get there in the end, according to the OECD studies.
No homework until 11. That is extraordinary. I am moving to Denmark. That's like a major that's a major box tick for parents as well as children.
I know, and actually I spoke to experts from Cambridge about this, and they said there's no evidence that it helps. It erodes quality time from a developmental point of view, and of course puts a massive pressure on families, as you say, that the parents end up having to sit there and do it or assist people doing it.
Let's be honest,
so,
they do
it just doesn't help.
Yeah.
I have all this to come. This is terrifying.
And so then when you're so that's as a child and how you can become more Viking-like in your approach to childhood. And then how about as you come into the teens and adulthood, what are the lessons from, these well-adjusted adults that have been formed from great childhood structure? How can we learn from them about how best to be a Viking?
In the teenage years in the Nordics, there is still this culture of radical permissiveness, which sounds mad, but if you've got that bedrock of respect from early on, that everyone is equal, that they have found their voice, there's not that much to rebel against, they actually turn out quite nice, largely. There's also really good, there's sex education from very early. There's a real sense of body neutrality. It's all about being strong, not thin. So I think for many friends who are parents of teenagers, that's a massive help that they are not under the same perhaps pressure. Of course, we are still all subject to the internet and globalization and advertising and media, but there isn't quite the same pressure as there may be elsewhere. And that really helps as well. They have this, there's still no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothes. So everyone is forced outside all the time. There's this real culture of singing that they do often in schools as a way to start the day, which is very Von Trapp and old-fashioned, but they also do it in offices or at meetings or any kind of social gathering or sporting event. And studies show, that group singing releases all this oxytocin, all these good feelings, feeling part of a community. So something as simple as that Danes are kind of getting on a daily basis. So I think, we can all start singing in the car a bit more or finding some way to come together and sing.
Yeah, some of us better rather than others, but definitely not me. And what about work-life balance? Are they good at that? Because I remember from our time in New Zealand, Ben and I, it was just a brilliant approach to work-life balance. It was kind of this play hard, work hard, and they didn't sort of give anything less. They just had a really good way of actually getting the most and being most effective with their time out of their work time and their home time. And it was just a wonderful sort of coming together of understanding how to best make that work. Is that the same sort of approach in Denmark?
It is, yeah. They don't do presenteeism. And it's so mad that we haven't kind of realized now that the really kind of working all hours thing doesn't work. That, so in Denmark, there's a short working week. It's meant to be 37 hours, but the average data is they're only working around 33 hours a week, but they are still the second most productive country in the EU. They're getting stuff done. They're just not staying really late to do it. So they're not perhaps scrolling Facebook at work. They are doing the work. There is a lot of worker autonomy. So you have control of your time. You get it done. Nobody really minds how or where you do it or when. You just get it done. You're trusted. And then you can go home. So it's quite normal because men and women both work, it's quite normal for a boss, male or female, to say at 4:00, or I'm leaving now because I have to pick up my kid from daycare and go and make dinner. And that's much more accepted here than it would be elsewhere. So I think they have got the work-life balance part really right.
What's your next book going to be?
Well, actually working on a fiction next. So that's my next project. And then there is another non-fiction in my head, but not quite on paper yet, but I'll keep you posted.
Does it involve Bhutan?
Should we go on a group trip to Bhutan? Would that be a good idea?
Should it in fact be a trip to Bhutan to assess whether happiness is as well measured as they say it is?
Yeah. It's called Helen and Georgie Go to Bhutan. That's what I know.
Bhutan rocks. Brilliant. Helen, thank you so much. It's been brilliant. I've loved talking to you. Thank you.
Lovely to speak to you. Take care.